Would you like to make some popcorn garland with me while I talk about some of the things that I am grateful for around crochet? Well, then you're in the right place. This might be a little bit different than one of my normal videos, but it is that season and I think it's a great time to work on my popcorn garland that I'm working on for my Christmas tree that I've been doing all year long, and at the same time share with you some of the things that I am most grateful for about crochet. So let's get started. Okay, let's talk about the tools first because that's going to be really important. I have been making crochet popcorn for about a year now. I actually think I did make a crochet garland for a Christmas present last year and started this shortly after Christmas for my own tree, knowing that I didn't want to have to do it all at once. So I've been working feverishly on making crochet popcorn now for about a year. And at the same time, I did not get nearly as much of it done as I had hoped to get done, because from everything I read, the average is about 9 feet of garland per foot of tree, and I have a 9-foot tree, so that means that I should end up with about 80 feet of garland in order to go all the way around my tree adequately. There is no way that I have enough for 80 feet of garland here. It's just not going to happen. So we're going to be okay with that. And I'm going to let myself off the hook. And I'm going to say, you know what? Whatever I have is going to work, whether I put it around my tree or use it somewhere else. Now, in addition to the popcorn, I also found these red wood beads. Now, I could have gotten plastic ones, which probably would have been a little bit lighter and worked a little bit better from the weight perspective, but I really loved the way that the red ones looked. So I'll link to these in the comments below or in the description below. And so I'm going to kind of alternate probably 2 popcorns and 1 red bead just to kind of offset the weight a little bit. I also am using some fishing line, and that's going to be what I thread everything on. Now this is 8-pound fishing line, and if you know anything about fishing line, which I don't know a lot about, but I do know that it comes in different weights. And I believe that the weight means how many pounds it can take before it breaks.
That's correct.
So if you are fishing for heavier fish, you're going to want something heavier than an 8-pound line. My husband generally fishes for smaller fish, so all he has is 8-pound, which means I may make more shorter garlands instead of fewer bigger garlands, and I'm okay with that. And then, of course, I've got my needle, and I've got my trusty scissors, and I've got a list of all of the things that I'm grateful for that I can share with you as we are working on this project. Now, I will, of course, share with you the tutorial that I used, but the thing about making popcorn is once you sort of understand the concept that the pattern is going for, it really kind of lends itself to just having fun with it and not necessarily getting too bogged down on making sure every single one of them is perfect. Because, as we all know, popcorn is unique. It's kind of like a snowflake, which maybe that's why it's used so much on trees. I don't know, probably not, but it's fun to think of. I started following the pattern and then I'm like, it's a little I'm just gonna wing it, and I kind of went with it from there. So now I have all of these little pieces that I need to tie off the ends and start threading together to make some garland. So as I go through these, I want you to share with me if I trigger on something that I'm grateful for. I want you to let me know and say, you know what, that one's good for me too. I really like that one. So that way we can kind of connect and see, which ones are we like, oh yeah, that one's totally awesome. But I also want to know which ones you're like, yeah, I'm not so grateful for that one. Because it just opens up that conversation and we can chit chat about it and see what we have in common and see what kind of differences we have, because those are the kind of things that make the world go round and really make things awesome. Now, I'm going to get started here by measuring out some of my fishing line. And I think I'm going to do probably, I want to do probably 6 feet. So I'm just going to wing this. I don't have to be perfect about it. You probably can't see this and it's totally okay. I'm just going to do probably about 6 feet. We'll go with that. Cut that off. I'm going to need those on a regular basis. I'll move this over here temporarily. And then I'm going to start with my first piece of popcorn. And just string that through all the way to the end. Did you ever do popcorn garland when you were a kid? I don't remember my family doing it. I don't think that was a big thing in our household, but I always loved the idea of it. So I think it makes for a very classic looking tree, and it's totally fun. So I figured, oof, this is gonna be fun to tie. Hold on. There we go. So I figured if I can just add a little classic class to my tree, that would be a lot of fun. Even though I don't have kids home very much anymore. My son lives in North Carolina, so he and his daughter don't get back here for Christmas very often. I still enjoy having the tree, and still, even if I don't have the tree, which sometimes is a little bit more work than some of the other things, I still like to decorate various things around my home. So it's always a fun thing. All right, so I've got my first bead going on here. And oh, you know what? I said I was going to do 2 popcorns for every bead. Yes. So let's undo that one. Oops. So one of the things that I am definitely grateful for about crochet is the ability to have a project that I can be artistic and creative, and even if I'm following a pattern or being, trying to create something that is very similar to something else, it still gives me that opportunity to introduce some things that are a little bit more creative and unique and make it mine, So even like with this, there's no hard and fast rules on the popcorn, the size, the shape, the yarn that you're using. I'm actually using a cotton yarn because when I first started this, I tested probably 3 or 4 different yarns. And this is the one that I'll put it in the little section down here, but I believe it is I Love This Cotton by Hobie, and I just found that this is the one that gave the size and the texture and everything that I was looking for in this popcorn. So you absolutely could experiment and do something with acrylic yarn or any other sort of yarn you can imagine and still come out with something that's amazing. You could use kind of like an off yellow that makes it look a little bit more like buttered popcorn. It's all good and it all works. It's all just about whatever kind of creativity you want to have. So I love that about crochet. And I love the opportunity to just really get to experiment and be artistic, even within the confines of something that most people say, well, it's got to look just like this. Well, even if I'm following a pattern explicitly, I still get to pick what colors I'm using. there's no saying that I have to follow the colors that they are suggesting by any means. So that is definitely something that I love about crochet, is getting to be very creative. And as I'm throwing these in here, I'm realizing, you know what? I think I actually want to keep all of these cut and scraps, because I keep those things for extra stuffing and random things, so I probably don't want to throw them in the trash. So here we are. We've got a tangled mess is what we have. We have 2 popcorns and 1 berry. Now, I could have also actually crocheted the berries, but given that I wasn't going to have enough time to crochet the popcorn, there was no way I was also going to have enough time to crochet the berries. So, and I wanted something that looked a little bit more shiny, a little bit more berry-like, so that's why I ended up with the beads. The next thing that I'm really grateful for about crochet is that it keeps me off social media, especially now that we are kind of coming out of a really contentious political phase. And I don't care what your politics are. I love you no matter what. There's just so much on social media nowadays that I don't choose to get into, because it's just there's so much negativity, there's so much and honestly, even if it comes to now, it's football season and I am not a football fan, this gives me an opportunity to give me something to do while I'm sitting on the couch watching TV. Instead of sitting there doom scrolling, I can have my hands busy and my eyes busy and be thinking about something that totally distracts me without feeling that need to scroll through social media. So that is another thing that I am super thankful for. Whoops, and lost my thread. You know what? I'm going to thread that a little bit longer. Okay. So here we go. I've got some pieces going, and I can see it's already accumulating some of my dog fur, and I have a loose end here that I didn't cut. It's a work in progress. Put that on my lap. Maybe it won't clank as much. Next up, I love the fact that I am always learning new skills. There is just no end to the amount of skills that you can learn when it comes to crochet. Okay, maybe there are, but we can always be perfecting them for sure. And there are just so many things that at this point in my life, I can work on to learn. I know next year I want to really focus on learning some mosaics and learning how to do some of that kind of thing, because I've never done that, and I think that would make, I'm really attracted to some of those patterns. So there are certain patterns that I'm looking at that I'm like, oof, that's really, really pretty, but it's a mosaic, and I gotta be honest, I'm a little intimidated by the mosaics at this point. So that's, something that I can continue to learn. I can continue to learn new stitches, even if it's like the shell stitch or the long form wave or the puff stitch or the moss stitch. There are so many different stitches that we can learn how to do. And then even within the stitches, we could learn how to do things like different types of granny squares, or, I don't know, there's just so much that you can be learning in crochet. And learning is one of my top strengths. Like, not by strengths, I mean, if you've ever taken like the Clifton Strength Finder kind of quiz, which tells you, what you're good at and what you thrive in, learning is definitely one of them. And wow, how do I keep getting this tangled? Learning is just one of those things that I thrive when I get to learn something. And if I'm not learning, I feel like I'm kind of in a stagnant, kind of icky place. And so I always have to be learning something, even if I'm not learning something new with my career or my business. I want to be learning something new in my personal world. So for that reason, I love crochet. And of course, along with the learning, it means that I always get to have my brain working. Even if I'm not like actively learning something, I'm working on a pattern right now, the celosia top, which hopefully by the time this video airs, I will be pretty much done with that. But in the meantime, I'm still working on it. So even though this celosia top is just double crochets, it has been challenging me in just the idea of counting the number of stitches and making sure that I'm following along and doing the pattern the way that it's supposed to be done. And every time I start a new pattern, I find that there is that kind of early phase where my brain just has to really go into overdrive to think about how does this pattern supposed to go together and what am I doing, and man, it just really, it makes my brain work for sure. And that's a good thing. You know, we need to keep our brains active, especially as we get a little bit older. And I know most of you out there watching this are not nearly as old as I am. It is still something to keep in mind that as you start to get older, you want to keep your brain more active. So that's something that I'm grateful for about crochet. In addition to that, and I know a lot of these are very similar, a lot of these are kind of related in a way, but there's also the idea that crochet helps me to meditate. I'm not very good at meditating. I've tried it many, many times, and my brain is always kind of like, you want me to do what? You want me to stop thinking? No, no, ma'am. I cannot just randomly stop thinking because you want me to stop thinking. That's not something that my brain likes to do. But I can quiet my brain when I am crocheting. And basically, it allows me to say, you know what? Whatever's going on in my world, I don't need to think about that right now because I'm concentrating on what it is that I am doing with my crochet. So it could be a simple pattern that's on a repeat or something that's a little bit more complicated, but whatever the case, just the fact that my brain says it's time to focus on your hook and your yarn and nothing else helps me to get into a meditative state, and oof, that's a good thing. That is a really, really good therapeutic thing for me. All right, look at what we've got so far. Are you liking it? I think it is adorable. Like I said, there's no way that I'm going to get 81 feet of this, but I'm going to love as much as I do get out of it. So, ooh, hey, look, it's a double bead. Break you in half. Now, I did share some of these as video shorts already, and one of the ones that I got to share was the idea of being part of a community. I love that I have a group local that allows me to kind of go and hang out, and we go to a local restaurant and sit around and get to chit chat, catch up on whatever it is that comes up, anything from the latest book that we're reading to TV shows to what's going on in our world. And at the same time, we're working on our crochet, or, well, a lot of the gals are knitters, and fortunately, they still welcome me, even though I'm a crocheter, so thank you very much.
From now on, everyone is welcome.
And this is an amazing way to just really get to be a part of a community. Now, if you don't have a community around you to get to take advantage of this like I do, first of all, I'd say check. There's a good chance that maybe there is one, or you can always start your own. And if not, when push comes to shove and you can't start your own, or you don't want to start your own, and there's not one around you, you always have online communities. There's Reddit, there's Facebook groups, and there's all kinds of places where you can go and have conversations about your crochet projects. Some of these are going to be open to conversations that aren't crochet related, but most of them are going to be more focused on crochet topics. But it allows you to meet other people that do what you love to do, and you get to share your current projects, or get some help when you're struggling with something, or find out how to get your crojo back. All of those kind of good things are a great reason that crochet allows us to be a part of a community. Now, I think I've shared before that one of the things that I love about crochet is getting to make clothes my way. And what I mean by this is that I live in Arizona, and I've shared this on previous videos, but I live in Arizona, which means I don't get to take advantage of the awesome winter makes that are so popular this time of year, because everything has to be on the cooler side of things. So I can look up summer sweater and get ideas for patterns, and then just use winter colors instead of summer colors and get something that works for me. Or I don't have to go with the fashion trends that are like the latest, greatest thing in the stores right now. I can pick from patterns that are, 5 years old or 10 years old. If that's more flattering to my body and more comfortable for me to wear, I don't have to rely on what the fashion experts think I have to wear right now, which let me tell you is a fabulous benefit, because there are periods of time where I can't find anything that works for my body shape and my level of comfort. So being able to make my own clothes in a style and a color, and I get it to even tweak things here and there if I choose to. So maybe I want to have it tighter at the waist because I have larger breasts but smaller waist. I can do that. I can customize those things, and so that's a really cool thing to be that I love about getting to crochet and crochet my own garments, for sure. Now, again, if you've been with me for any sort of time whatsoever, you know that I love life lessons. I love sharing life hacks and tips and strategies, and crochet is a great way to sort of get to practice a lot of those life lessons. Imperfection, rather, for example. Nothing is going to be perfect that we crochet. It just isn't going to be. I mean, we are not machines, we are human beings, and so there's always going to be slight imperfections. Most of the time, those might be completely imperceptible, but they're still going to be there. And sometimes we're going to be our worst critics, and we're going to see those things that nobody else would ever notice. So crochet gives me an opportunity to really practice some of those life skills and life lessons and drive them home in a way that isn't, it's much less pressure than, say, I have to accept imperfection at work. That's stressful, because that maybe your job is on the line there, and that's a really kind of challenging thing. Whereas with crochet, it's okay. Let yourself off the hook with some of those things that are going to be imperfect, and practice some of those life lessons in your crochet so that it's easier when it gets to be something in your real life. Now, coming up very soon, I get to explore some of the new yarns that I selected for the Black Friday sales. I'm kind of treating this like an advent, where instead of different colors, I am picking different yarns to explore. So I picked, I think, 3 or 4, maybe even 5 or 6 yarns that I've never used before. And I'm purchasing those on the Black Friday sales. So it doesn't cost me a lot. It's something that gives me an opportunity to explore different yarns, whether it's different colors or different textiles or different weights, and just have some fun exploring different things in that way. So that's one of the things. But I also am really grateful not only for that, but also that I get to explore different patterns. I've done everything from amigurumi, which is where I kind of started and realized pretty quickly that wasn't as much my thing as I thought it was going to be. to now making garments. I haven't done any blankets yet, but I've made some household items, and I get to explore different patterns. The number of sweaters and scarves that are out there. So while I might not like this pattern, there are probably 3 or 4 or 5 dozen that I can check out instead. And there are great sources for finding some of these. I'll actually link to a video where I talk about how to find some free patterns if that's where you're at and you want to kind of get started with some of this free stuff. I have to keep checking where I'm at because I'm not paying quite as much attention as if I were just focused on this. Since I'm talking to you at the same time, I'm like, wait, am I on the first popcorn, the second popcorn, or the bead? Where am I at? So, but I think this is turning out to be really fun. It is definitely on the heavy side. So, I think an acrylic yarn would have been lighter in weight than the cotton is, but I just really like the way the cotton looked and felt. So that's the one that I went with. I thought the cotton gave it more of an authentic look to it than I think the acrylic that I was messing around with did. So, but I think this is a lot of fun. The popcorns are kind of big. I think if I were to do it over again, I would go down to like a DK weight maybe, or even smaller, just to make smaller popcorns. But if they're spread out, if they're not bunched up, they probably look okay. So I don't know how much I want to like cram this all the way down versus giving it some air breathing space, that kind of thing. I might give it just a little bit of breathing room so they don't look all squished together too much. We'll see. Along with the community, one of the things that I get to do with crochet is actually build a relationship with my mother-in-law. And this is kind of a big deal. I've been married to my husband for it'll be 24 years in February. So coming up real fast on 24 years. And in that time, my mother-in-law and I have kind of had the classic mother-in-law relationship where it wasn't horrible. It certainly wasn't, like that movie where the mother-in-law is just really horrible and vicious. It was not like that by any means, but we have not had the friendliest, kindest relationship to each other. It was more acquaintance like. And within the last few years, and especially once I started crocheting, that shifted quite a bit. So she crochets, but she primarily knits, and she doesn't crochet quite as much as she knits. I guess that's what primarily knits would mean, Nicole. Yeah, right. And but just the fact that it's yarn related, it's fiber related, she has really helped me out. Even though she didn't teach me how to crochet, she gave me some really important first step pointers that were very valuable and kind of got me started and got me over that hump of, can I really do this? So, and ever since, we've just really bonded over the craft and getting to share things and projects and discuss those things. And so that's really been something that I'm very grateful for, is to be able to really connect with her on a level that I've never been able to connect with her before. For my last one for today, I really want to say that I'm grateful for crochet because it is one of the very first hobbies that I have ever stuck to for any sort of length of time. And what I mean by that is I've tried decoupage, I've tried jewelry making, I've tried beadwork and painting and different things like that. The only other thing that I've really stuck to was photography. And photography has some challenges with it because I do outdoor photography, and I'm not like, I don't get up really early in the morning, and that's kind of the best time to do outdoor photography. And I'm not always able to go on location. So when I have the opportunity to do outdoor photography, whether it's abandoned buildings or landscapes or whatever, I absolutely love, love, love doing that. But it's not something that I am doing on a regular, consistent, routine basis. I don't make it a priority to go out every week and take pictures because I get bored taking pictures of the same thing in my backyard. Or by backyard, I just mean, where I live, near where I live, or whatever. So for me, it's the variety in photography, and I don't get to take advantage of that as much as I would really like. So it kind of limits that hobby for me. Crochet, on the other hand, is something that I can take with me no matter where I go. It's small, it's portable, it is convenient, and it's just, I don't know. It's one of the few things that I've ever actually stuck with for any sort of length of time. And that might be one of the best reasons of all that I like crochet is it's just got some longevity for me. And to me, that's pretty amazing. All right, so I've got a nice little start going here. I'm definitely not gonna get anywhere near as much of the garland. I might end up with not very much. Anyway, it's all gonna be good. I'm gonna make it the best of it, and we'll make it happy and work. Hi, Foofies. Hi. Do you want to come up? Want to come up and say hi? Come here. Oh, she just went down. Instead of up, she came down. Instead of coming up, she went down. Oh, my girl. Gosh. Come here, Poofs. Come here. Come here. There we go. So let me know if you'd like to see a part 2 of that, of my what I'm grateful for while I work on some popcorn, and I would be happy to record that and share that with you. Right, Foof? Yes. Jinx. Oh, Jinx. Yes. I love you. Make sure that you share with me what you're grateful for in the comments below. Like this video, share it with others, and subscribe so you always have great content to work on and subscribe so that you always have great content to watch while you're working on your own popcorn garland. Thanks so much. We'll see you later.